Hello everybody, and welcome to another very exciting complete growing guide here on the MIgardener channel. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. I am just out enjoying it, so I thought I'd bring to you all a complete growing guide because I was looking through the list and I was reading all of your comments on the past complete growing guide, asking for suggestions on ones we haven't done yet, and someone brought up the point that we have not done blackberry and raspberry yet. So today's episode is going to be on how to grow blackberries, and then the next complete growing guide is going to be on how to grow raspberries. Forewarning, they are both exactly the same, but for searchability, I have to put two separate videos out there. Otherwise, I will get somebody asking how to grow raspberries, even though we could cover them both in this same episode and just call it how to grow brambles. So for those that watch this channel pretty religiously, you can skip that episode. I will not feel hurt, but it will contain the exact same information, I promise. So only letting you guys know that. So the first thing to know about blackberries is that you actually have a very good selection to choose from. There are many, many types of blackberries out there, so search around and find ones that will meet your criteria. For instance, we don't like thorns on our blackberries because with Geneva being around, we wanted really easy to grow blackberries that she could walk up and pick and not worry about getting stuck with a thorn. So we went with thornless varieties, but there are lots of other varieties out there. There are some beautiful options for those that like options. So we went with a thornless variety, but any variety will still apply. I only say that because I think oftentimes people just assume blackberries as being like a single variety. There are hundreds of varieties of blackberries out there. So fun tip for those that do not yet know that. Now, when it comes to growing blackberries, it could not be more simple, I'm telling you what. In fact, we actually did so little to this bed because this was a pre-existing garden bed. When we bought this house, this was sitting here, and they actually had, there's a rose bush there and some other daylilies and stuff, and we didn't really like how it looked, so we moved the daylilies off and pretty much just kept this soil here because we realized, wow, this soil is perfect for growing blackberries and raspberries. So blackberries do not like a super heavy clay soil, but they do like to have a soil that holds onto water very well. And so we put them in this bed that has a slightly higher clay content than I guess all of our other beds have. But what we've gone and done is we've added about 2 to 5% organic matter back into this bed in the form of compost. So what that's going to do is going to provide the organic matter that every plant needs, but the clay is actually going to hold on to that moisture very well because raspberries and blackberries are extremely prone to drying out. If you've ever seen a shriveled up raisin raspberry, that's because it dried out. And so one way you can eliminate that, it's just so common, it happens all the time and you lose so much fruit. But one way you can mitigate that is by planting them in a soil that has a ton of organic matter or some clay. And so since we're putting them here, we figured, hey, it's got the clay anyways, let's just add, and it's not like really heavy clay, it's just got some clay in it. So normally it would not be as ideal for other plants, but because it holds onto water very well, we're actually using it to our advantage. So that's something to keep in mind, that raspberries and blackberries can go in places that other plants might not do as well. Now, the next thing to growing blackberries is extremely important is to note sunlight. So we actually have a tree off to our left and a tree off to our right, but we have a big opening in the center. And that's going to provide ideal conditions for growing blackberries and raspberries. So for growing blackberries, they really do like having a period of full sun, but then having some filtered sun in between, because the hot day suns you'll find do in fact dry out the berries, because the berries, the blackberries and raspberries don't have a whole lot of protective foliage. And most plants will actually have leaves, and their main objective is to kind of shield the fruit to protect from sunburn. However, raspberries and blackberries don't really have that. Their foliage is very sparse since it's a vine. And so you'll find that, like we talked about kind of with drying out, just being in very hot sun, you'll find that the berries have oftentimes a lot of sun scald on them. And so you'll find that giving them any more than 8 hours of sun is actually kind of it's not going to do you any good. And in fact, you're going to actually suffer in some seasons if they're hotter than others. So since I always err on the side of caution, we've given them about 5.5 hours of sun here. So we got that opening and then some beautiful, just kind of filtered sun through the leaves, which is just great for growing blackberries. The next thing that I want to talk about is fertilizing. This is a question that always comes up, you know, since they're perennials. Do they need any specific types of fertilizer? The answer is yes. They do need a specific type of fertilizer. Since we've planted bare root, in fact, I'll bring you in so you can see what we've planted here. We planted bare root canes because they're the cheapest option out there. And we want to pull them out of dormancy. This applies to bare root if you're just planting them, or if you're planting them even from a plant that you get from a nursery, or even if you already have them in the ground and you just want to grow them better. So in the springtime, it is crucial to feed them with a high nitrogen fertilizer. So we've gone through and we've fertilized every single plant with trifecta, and what that will do is the plants will take up that fast-acting nitrogen and it will kickstart the plant to grow leaves, because if you don't have a very strong, sturdy plant, there's really nothing for it to fruit on. And raspberries, blackberries, much like raspberries and all the other brambles, they will fruit on new growth. So if you have old canes, you'll find that they won't fruit anything, and then you just have a big tangled up mess of no fruit. So the secret is to boost new growth every spring, because that's what they're going to fruit on, and they'll fruit that same year on that new growth. So big pointer there. So getting them off to the races is a good idea. So we've got them fertilized up. Blood meal is also a really good option. Fish emulsion is less potent, but still a very good nitrogen option, but something that has nitrogen in it. Then come fall, around early October-ish, depending on the type of blackberry, some will ripen in October, but just after the fruit has been harvested, you want to come back and follow up with a high phosphorus fertilizer. And what that's going to do is it's going to prep the root system for winter and to go dormant. So since you've already gotten the fruit off of it, and most blackberries will kind of fruit all around the same time, some will fruit, you know, throughout the course of like a month, month and a half, but pretty much once fruiting is done, it's done, and you're not going to get any more. So you might as well get it ready for winter. So as soon as you harvest, usually in August, September, October are your months for blackberries. Pick them off and then prep the plant for winter using a high phosphorus fertilizer. Again, we just follow up with trifecta because the plant will take up that phosphorus that's in trifecta plus. But if you want another option, bone meal is another great organic option, and that's going to give you a very good source of phosphorus to prep the root system for winter. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is watering. So we also talked about this with soil, but I figured I might as well make it a topic on watering, because we do stuff a little bit differently here than some do, because it actually really helps us out. So coming in close for this one, so I can demonstrate, or so I can show you, not really demonstrate because it's already done, but I can show you what we've done to conserve water so that we don't have any drying out of our berries and fruit. And it's also going to help you save water during the hot season. So coming in close, check this out. All right, so what we've gone and done is we've planted the plants slightly below soil level, and we've created kind of a crater here. And what that will do is all of the water, whether it's you watering or rainfall, will actually go into the crater and soak in, being way more efficient with where the water is going. And that's, as you can see, that is extremely effective, because we had a rain about 2 days ago, and I have not watered these since, and it's still very, very nicely damp, which is great. And you can see, I mean, the outer soil is dry as a bone. I mean, it's just blowing away. So we are going to go through here and mulch this, don't you worry, which is a good idea if you want to. It helps conserve more moisture and just kind of keeps the soil quality intact, which is something we're going to follow up and do. But you get the method here, and this is going to really be a lifesaver for conserving water and your fruit quality. The final thing I wanted to talk about when growing blackberries was soil pH. This is something that you really do want to kind of keep up on. If you have already kind of slightly acidic soil, that's going to be great. You don't have to do anything, and they'll do awesome. But blackberries do prefer a slightly acidic soil of right around 6.0 to 6.5. So by having your soil slightly acidic, it's going to allow the plants the ability to uptake much more nutrients, stay far healthier and disease-free. If your soil is alkaline, you'll find that one of the problems that you have is that the blackberries will turn dark around the edges. It's a very common problem, and that can be solved by just adding some soil acidifier, some sulfur, things like that. And what that's going to do is it's going to lower the pH again back to ideal levels, and you'll find that those dark edges might stick around for a little bit, but they will recede and the leaves will turn green again. So I do get asked that a lot too with blackberries, and people oftentimes panic. And it's really also one of those things that is kind of, it's not a major concern because it's so fixable, and it's not like it's really harming the plant. The only time it would harm the plant is if you left it for the whole season like that. It would begin to have some issues, and that stress would take its toll eventually. But if you leave it for like a month or two with these dark, the dark leaves, or the dark edges around the leaves, it's not going to harm anything. In fact, I might even have an example of one that I just put in a small container to get it kind of growing and up to size before we transplanted it, that I think has some dark edges. So I'll show you that if I have one. Aha, I did have one. So this right here is growing in pretty average soil here. It's just some native soil that we dug up, and we're really just using this as a temporary holding space. The soil quality is not as great, and I'll probably have to go back and fix it. But you can see here, the leaves are very, very dark, and that darkness is because of a pH imbalance. If I made the soil slightly more acidic, you'll find that the leaves will return back to kind of this state here, and even this one is still having some pH problems, as you can see. But it's not a big deal. I'm not concerned. I'm just going to go back here, put some soil acidifier in, and mulch with some really good finished compost, and it's going to fix all these problems. It's just because the native soil is quite clayey, and that clay has a tendency to be slightly alkaline. And so that's all it is. It's really not a big issue at all, but it's something that you do want to keep in check. So there you go. There is all there is to growing blackberries. I hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. If you did, please click that like button. That really helps us out. And also make sure to share this video with a friend if they've ever tried growing blackberries or are interested in trying growing blackberries, because I think it'll help them. And also, the final thing that I really would appreciate is if you have not yet subscribed, please do. That is such a win-win situation for both of us, because it lets us know that we're going to be reaching new people with our new uploads that we're having every day now. But it also will allow you to gain access to so much content that we upload in the future. And so it really is a win-win situation. So hopefully you all enjoyed, hopefully you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel reminding you to grow big or go home. See ya. Bye.